Welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Church Online, and happy birthday, America. My name is Steve Mason, and I am the worship associate for today. As UUs, we teach that no one person, no one philosophy or religion holds all the answers or all of the truth. We respect the diverse paths of religious experiences, and we celebrate the diversity of humankind. We teach the inherent worth and dignity of all beings. We work for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Pastor Chris Cervantes is taking a study break this week. Our guest speaker today is Reverend Milo Grant.
Good morning. At this time, I invite you all to center yourselves as we prepare to engage the divine and engage our spirituality together within this community. During this hour, we will ask hard questions and seek to have patience and clarity. And may you know that through the groundedness of yourself, that we are all doing hard work and we're doing it together.
This flame we kindle is set in the lamp of our history. We have inherited this free faith and the brave and the gentle, the fierce and outspoken hearts and minds of those who have come before us. Let us be worthy inheritors of this faith, and through our good works, pass it boldly to the next generation. Unitarian Universalism is a religion characterized by a free and responsible search for truth and for meaning. UUs assert no creed, but instead are unified by their search for spiritual growth. The thread that binds us is our purpose and our shared covenant. Please join me in saying it together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and freedom, and to help one another.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage.
Our founding fathers and the 13 respective colonies officially ratified the edited version of the Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776. This treasured document stated that all men are created equal with certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. George Washington, one of our founding fathers and the first president of our United States, stated, "As mankind becomes more liberal, they will be more apt to allow all those who conduct themselves as worthy members of the community are entitled to protections of civil government." As we continue to notice, some 245 years later, our society, this beautiful country, still struggles to provide equal protection and equal opportunities to all men, women, races, cultures, and religions. Keep working at it, America. As mentioned, our guest speaker today is Reverend Milo Grant. The title of his sermon is "Look Around, How Lucky We Are to Be Alive Right Now." Welcome, Reverend Grant.
Good morning, community. It is a joy to be back with you. And what a day to be back. Whenever Chris asked me to preach sometime this month, I told her I was open to any day. So, of course, my dear friend and your pastor assigned me to our nation's Independence Day. As independence, freedom, and liberty is very fresh on our minds, I'm excited to explore with you all what it means to be free and what it means to be liberated. While these words may seem similar in nature, they are in fact quite different. As our nation has also celebrated its first federally recognized Juneteenth, we are going to sit in the tension between the 4th of July and Juneteenth. How does one represent privilege and one represent empowerment? As many of you may recall, I'm a Baptist minister. I grew up in the worst of the Baptists, that good old Southern kind. Every year, my small hometown hosted a community 4th of July celebration. My church not only played a major role in organizing and setting up the festivities, but also spent thousands of dollars in bringing in special performers, one of whom was Reba McEntire's sister, to play at our God and Country Day. Yes, God and Country Day. It was as awful as it sounds. I've been meditating on those memories this week. What does it mean that we as a community of faith crafted an all-day event celebrating political freedom? What value did that time, money, and resources do for our community? Stepping away from the horrible blending of church and state, what message of faith did we proclaim? This is why I'm so excited to be with you all today. It's easy to swing to the other side of the pendulum and ignore the political extravaganza that is today, but instead, I would like us to sit in the tension of just what today means in contrast to Juneteenth. These two holidays can seem similar, but the reality is they're quite different. Today, our nation is celebrating selective freedom, bought by organized and empowered people whose citizenship and lives were seen as autonomous and whole. This is, of course, not including the Black Americans and First People who were promised liberation and land, but were later denied such rights after risking and sacrificing their lives. This day celebrates freedom from taxation. Such freedom lifts a burden off of people who demanded respect from the political authority over their lives. This day also celebrates freedom from said authority encroaching on land and home in the form of extreme policing. This is an important day within the history of our nation. But does its selective freedom actually liberate people whose bodies were violated? Does this freedom liberate all peoples from physical chains wrapped around hands, feet, and neck? Does this freedom echo throughout history as a true turning point for the liberation of those who were stolen from their homes and used to build a nation off their scarred and beaten backs? During my first year of my master's program, I attended a Baptist seminary. Part of my scholarship and program dictated that I take a Baptist history class. As that was a required class for all, we were in the largest lecture hall, and there were around 60 students enrolled. As we neared the civil rights era and began discussing Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy, a certain county clerk from Kentucky began making headlines. Kimberly Jean Davis worked for Rowan County as a clerk. Seeing as this was 2015 and marriage equality had just passed the summer before, Kim took it upon herself to deny any and all same-gender loving partners their marriage license. As this was a violation of their rights, many couples quickly reported her actions. As the story continued to grow more and more outlandish, Kim Davis found herself facing jail time for flouting her duties as a county clerk. One of my classmates brought this up in class and begged the question whether Kim Davis being arrested for her beliefs was the same as Martin Luther King Jr. being arrested for his fight for racial equality. The room went silent. No one said a word. Right about the time I was going to say something, my professor decided to take up the question. He walked from the front of the hall all the way to the back where the student was. To this day, I can still hear his slow, methodical steps as he traveled towards the student. His eyes were wide and, honestly, had an eager look to them. I can't remember all of what he said in that moment when he finally was at eye level with a student, but I remember these words. By your thinking, Martin Luther King Jr. organized, marched, and sacrificed his life because he was uncomfortable being around whites. I can assure you this. Martin Luther King Jr. died because he fought for liberation for oppressed people. Kim Davis is in jail because she wants to enslave people. Liberation, freedom. While these words may be found together in a thesaurus, they are not the same at all. Another story made headlines in the past few weeks. Hammer thrower Gwen Berry made it to the upcoming Summer Olympic Games, finishing third in the Olympic trials. She did not stand at attention for the national anthem after taking the medal stand. Instead, she turned from the flag, faced the stands, and draped a t-shirt that read "Athlete Activist" over her head in protest. She did this as a spontaneous and surprise response to the anthem being played, something that did not happen during the most other medal ceremonies. To be noted, these are the U.S. Olympic trials, not the games. At this trial, the game and the anthem is rarely played. She said, "I felt like it was a setup and they did it on purpose. I was pissed, to be honest." Our very own Representative Dan Crenshaw immediately called for Berry's removal from the Olympic Games. He is quoted as saying, "If you're going to represent the Team USA, you should like the USA, and that the mere notion of supporting the USA shouldn't offend you." This was in opposition to Berry's statement when she said, "I never said that I didn't want to go to the Olympic Games. That's why I competed and got third and made the team. I never said that I hated the country. All I said was, I respect my people enough to not stand for or acknowledge something that disrespects them. I love my people. Point blank, period." This current story should grab us as we try to wrestle with what it means to be a liberating people. We are a nation whose ideals are liberty and justice for all. But the reality is, the country is more interested in oppressing and denying liberties to those who don't look white, cis, and straight. This is a reckoning that has every American on edge. Simply marrying your partner is an attack on someone's religion. A Black woman faces having her entire life work denied because she was forced to celebrate a nation who has blood dripping off their hands. We say we are a free nation, but at whose cost? Juneteenth brings all of these questions together. It is the embodiment of hope for a people whose liberty has not yet been fully given. It is the echo throughout our nation and state's history as the day that slavery was finally decreed illegal, heard throughout all. And this was despite the fact that President Lincoln announced the Emancipation Proclamation almost 6 months prior. Our nation sits at a threshold where we must decide if we're truly devoted to liberty and liberation, or if we're just another country doomed to fail under the guise of freedom. Today, I challenge us all to look closely at this day. During this talk, did these words create discomfort within your soul? If so, how does that make you feel, and what do you think made you feel that way? When faced with freedom, is this a work for self or a work for all? Where do you feel called to work toward liberating those around you who are lost in our nation's broken systems? Much like Gwen Berry, I love our country's people. I have seen bravery in the faces of the young and old. I have watched protesters flood the streets chanting Black Lives Matter and love is love is love. I have witnessed compelling street performers call attention to the broken ways that our country picks and chooses whose life has value and whose life is worth losing to a school-to-prison pipeline. I have seen people of faith rise up and answer the call to be agents of liberation. And I have seen people of faith oppress innocent lives simply due to the color of their skin, the way they show their love, and the lack of money in their pockets. Community, you are a people of action, hope, and restoration. As you prepare to gather back together in the next few months, I encourage you to look at your city and see where your time, money, and resources can create true liberty and justice for all. Liberation, not just freedom. Amen.
A purpose of our church is to encourage all who gather here to grow more generous in spirit and in action. We give to remind ourselves how fortunate we are. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. At this time, I invite you to freely give to our church. You can do so by mailing your check to our physical address or by going to our website, communityuuchurch.org, and clicking the Donate Now button. Thank you so very much. As our worship time together comes to a close, it is now time to extinguish the chalice. Please speak the words with me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Community, may you feel the power of freedom in the form of liberation. May you take to the streets ready to proclaim freedom and liberty for all. May you sit in the discomfort of our nation's history and the steps we're taking today. May you know that you are loved, and by that love, great healing and justice can happen. Amen.